The rain poured down as Sophia Chen stood at the entrance of the Wellington Hotel, her clothes soaked and her hair dripping. She took a deep breath, pushed open the heavy glass door, and stepped inside. The warm air hit her face as she looked around the grand lobby with its marble floors and crystal chandeliers. After a 20-hour journey across the country, including a missed connection and a 2-hour delay, Sophia was exhausted. To make matters worse, the airline had lost her luggage somewhere between airports. All she had was her small backpack with her laptop, phone, and a few personal items. "I can do this," she whispered to herself, straightening her back and walking towards the front desk. The Wellington was known as the most prestigious hotel in the city. Business people from around the world stayed here when closing important deals. Celebrities chose it for its privacy and luxury. Sophia had saved up for months to afford just 2 nights while she interviewed for her dream job. Behind the glossy mahogany desk stood Bradley Thompson, the hotel manager. His eyes moved from the computer screen to Sophia, taking in her appearance from head to toe. His lips tightened into a thin line. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice cool and detached. "Yes, I have a reservation for 2 nights. The name is Sophia Chen," she said, trying to sound confident despite her appearance. Bradley's fingers tapped on the keyboard, his eyes never meeting hers. A few staff members whispered behind him, occasionally glancing in her direction. "I'm afraid there must be some mistake," Bradley said after a moment. "I don't see any reservation under that name." Sophia felt her heart sink. She pulled out her phone and showed him the confirmation email she had received just a week ago. "See? Reservation number 2,784,390. 2 nights, starting today." Bradley barely glanced at her phone. "Our system shows no such reservation. Perhaps you've confused us with another hotel. There's a budget motel about 15 blocks from here that might be more." He paused, looking at her wet clothes, "suitable for your needs." Sophia couldn't believe what she was hearing. "But I have confirmation right here." "I paid in advance. Please check again." Bradley sighed loudly, making a show of typing on his computer. "As I said, we have no record of your reservation. The Wellington is fully booked for a business conference." By now, other guests in the lobby were staring. Sophia felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. "Let me speak to another manager, please," she said quietly. "I am the manager on duty," Bradley replied, his voice rising slightly. "And I'm afraid I must ask you to leave if you don't have a valid reservation." "But I do have." Bradley raised his hand, cutting her off. He signaled to a security guard who had been watching from near the elevator. "Thomas, please escort this young lady out. She seems to be confused about her accommodation arrangements." The security guard, a tall man with broad shoulders, walked over. He didn't grab Sophia, but his presence made it clear she had no choice. "This is completely unfair," Sophia protested, her voice shaking. "I have proof of my reservation. You can't just throw me out because of how I look right now." A few guests turned to watch the scene, but no one stepped forward to help. The hotel staff kept their eyes down, pretending not to notice. "Please leave quietly," Bradley said, now speaking as if to a child, "or we'll be forced to call the police." With her head held high despite the tears threatening to spill, Sophia turned and walked out of the hotel. The rain was still pouring down, and now night had fallen. She had no idea where to go. What Bradley Thompson and the staff of the Wellington Hotel didn't know was that Sophia Chen wasn't just any traveler. She wasn't just a young woman in wrinkled clothes with no luggage. She was the daughter of Victor Chen, the billionaire businessman who had recently bought a 40% stake in the Wellington Hotel Group. And Victor Chen was a man who never forgot when someone mistreated his family. As Sophia stood in the rain trying to book another hotel on her phone, she had no idea that in just a few days, the people who had thrown her out would be wishing they had never heard the name Wellington Hotel. The morning sun broke through the clouds as Sophia stood outside the Meridian Technologies building. Her night had been rough. After being thrown out of the Wellington Hotel, she'd found a small motel on the outskirts of town. The sheets were scratchy, the walls paper-thin, and she'd barely slept a wink. But today was important, too important to let a bad night ruin it. She smoothed down her only outfit, the same one she'd worn yesterday, now thankfully dry but still wrinkled, and checked her reflection in her phone camera. Her face looked tired, but her eyes showed determination. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, just like she had before entering the hotel. This time, things would be different. The Meridian Technologies building rose 20 stories into the sky, all glass and steel. As Sophia walked through the revolving doors, the cool air conditioning greeted her. The lobby buzzed with people in suits and smart casual wear, all looking like they belonged. Sophia approached the reception desk where a friendly-looking woman with curly hair sat. "Good morning," the receptionist said with a genuine smile. "How can I help you?" "I'm Sophia Chen. I have an interview at 9:30 with the project development team," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. The receptionist checked her computer. "Yes, Ms. Chen, you're right on time. Let me call someone to escort you up." She picked up the phone, spoke briefly, and then looked back at Sophia. "Someone will be down in a moment. Would you like some water while you wait?" The simple kindness almost made Sophia tear up after the treatment she received the night before. "Yes, please, that would be nice." While she sipped her water, the tall man with glasses and a friendly smile approached. "Sophia Chen, I'm David from the project development team. It's great to meet you." He didn't seem to notice, or at least didn't comment on, her wrinkled clothes as they rode the elevator to the 15th floor. "We were really impressed with your application," David said, "especially your work on sustainable technology implementation." The interview room held 4 people, the department head, 2 team leaders, and an HR representative. They'd all smiled as she entered, and Sophia felt her confidence growing. "Before we start," she said, taking a deep breath, "I want to apologize for my appearance. The airline lost my luggage yesterday, and I had some accommodation issues." The department head, Mrs. Park, waved her hand dismissively. "We're here to interview your brain, Ms. Chen, not your clothes. Please, have a seat." For the next hour, Sophia forgot about her troubles as she answered questions about her education, experience, and ideas for future projects. She spoke passionately about sustainable technology and how it could be implemented in urban environments. "What would you say is your greatest strength in project management?" one of the team leaders asked. Sophia thought for a moment. "I believe it's my ability to see the big picture while still paying attention to small details. My father always taught me that success lies in understanding both the forest and the trees." She didn't mention that her father's forest was a multi-billion-dollar empire spanning 3 continents. By the end of the interview, the panel looked impressed. Mrs. Park leaned forward. "Ms. Chen, we typically take a week to make decisions, but in your case, we'd like to offer you the position of junior project manager right now. Your insights and approach align perfectly with what we're looking for." Sophia couldn't believe her ears. "I thank you. I accept." After sorting out some paperwork, David showed her around the office and introduced her to some future colleagues. A friendly woman named Aisha offered to help her find an apartment. "There's a nice complex about 15 minutes from here," Aisha said. "Nothing fancy, but clean and safe. My cousin lived there last year." Meanwhile, back at the Wellington Hotel, Bradley Thompson was having his morning staff meeting. He stood at the head of the conference table, looking pleased with himself. "Yesterday, I had to turn away someone who clearly didn't meet our standards," he told his team. "Remember, appearances matter at the Wellington. Our guests expect to be surrounded by a certain caliber of people." The staff nodded obediently, though a few looked uncomfortable. Mr. Thompson, his assistant, piped up, "I just received notice that Mr. Victor Chen's office called. Apparently, he's planning to visit our hotel soon." Bradley's eyes widened. Victor Chen was the reclusive billionaire who had recently acquired a significant stake in the hotel group. "When?" he asked, suddenly alert. They didn't say exactly, just that it would be sometime soon and that Mr. Chen likes to check his investments personally. Bradley straightened his tie nervously. "Then we need to be at our absolute best. Mr. Chen is known for his attention to detail. Everything must be perfect." Little did he know that his encounter with Victor Chen would come sooner than expected, and under circumstances he could never have imagined. 3 days had passed since Sophia started her new job at Meridian Technologies. She had settled into a small but clean apartment in the complex Aisha had recommended. It wasn't fancy, just a 1-bedroom with basic furniture, but it was hers, at least for now. She had finally received her lost luggage and bought a few essential items to make the place feel more like home. Each morning, she woke up early, made herself a cup of strong coffee, and walked the 15 minutes to the office. Despite the rough start to her move, Sofia was happy. For the first time in her life, she was truly on her own, making her own way without her father's name opening doors for her. "How's the Henderson project coming along?" asked David as he stopped by her desk that morning. Sofia looked up from her computer and smiled. "Almost done with the preliminary assessment. I think we can cut costs by about 20% if we use local suppliers instead of importing materials." David nodded, impressed. "That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. Keep it up." As he walked away, Aisha rolled her chair over from the next desk. "You're making quite an impression for someone who's only been here 3 days," she whispered. "Mrs. Park was singing your praises in the management meeting yesterday." Sofia blushed slightly. "I'm just doing my job." "Well, a bunch of us are going for drinks after work to celebrate Raid's birthday. You should come. It would be a good chance to get to know everyone better." Sofia hesitated. She was trying to save money, and she wasn't much of a drinker anyway. "I don't know." "Just one drink," Aisha insisted. "It'll be fun, I promise." "Okay," Sofia agreed with a smile. "One drink." Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, Victor Chen sat in his penthouse office overlooking the Hong Kong skyline. At 62, he was still an imposing figure, tall, with salt and pepper hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He had built his empire from nothing, starting with a single small factory and expanding into technology, real estate, and hospitality. His assistant, Lai Wei, entered with a stack of reports. "The quarterly reviews for all your investments, Mr. Chen," she said, placing them on his desk. Victor nodded. "And how is my stubborn daughter doing?" Lai Wei smiled. Victor's affection for his only child was well known among his staff, even though he tried to hide it beneath a gruff exterior. "Ms. Sofia has started her new job at Meridian Technologies. According to our sources, she's doing very well." "And she's still refusing to use her real apartment?" Victor asked, referring to the luxury penthouse he had purchased in the city center. "Yes, sir. She's renting a small apartment near her workplace." Victor shook his head but couldn't hide the proud smile on his face. Sofia had always been fiercely independent, determined to make her own path rather than rely on the Chen name and fortune. "What about the Wellington Hotel Group? How is our investment there performing?" Lai Wei handed him a specific folder. "Overall, the group is doing well, but there are some concerns about the flagship hotel. Customer satisfaction ratings have dropped slightly in the past quarter." Victor frowned as he flipped through the report. "I think it's time I paid a visit to check on this investment personally. Make the arrangements, please." "Yes, sir. And will you be telling Sofia about your visit?" Victor thought for a moment. "Not yet. Let's make it a surprise. It's been too long since I've seen my daughter." Back at Meridian Technologies, Sofia was deep in conversation with her colleagues at a nearby bar. The place was casual and relaxed, with warm lighting and comfortable seating. "So Sofia," said Raj, the birthday celebrant, "you never talk about your family. Where are you from originally?" The table went quiet as everyone waited for her answer. Sofia had been deliberately vague about her background since starting at the company. She took a sip of her ginger ale. "My father works in international business. We moved around a lot when I was growing up. Hong Kong, Singapore, London, New York." "Sounds exciting," said Aisha. "Do you speak any other languages?" "Mandarin, Cantonese, and a bit of French," Sofia replied, trying to downplay her accomplishments. She didn't mention that she was also fluent in Japanese and German. "Wow!" exclaimed David. "No wonder the company snapped you up. Those language skills must be handy in international projects." Sofia nodded, relieved that the conversation was moving toward work rather than her personal life. "Speaking of which, I had some thoughts about the Osaka expansion project." As the evening wore on, Sofia relaxed more and more. These people liked her for who she was, not for her family name or her father's wealth. It felt good, normal in a way her life had rarely been. What she didn't know was that her worlds were about to collide in ways she couldn't imagine. In just a few days, Victor Chen would arrive in the city, and the staff at the Wellington Hotel would learn exactly who they had thrown out into the rain that stormy night. 2 weeks into her new job, Sophia stayed late at the office. The building had grown quiet as most employees had gone home hours ago. Only the gentle hum of the air conditioning and the soft tapping of her keyboard broke the silence. A half-empty cup of cold coffee sat beside her computer. "Just need to finish this proposal," she muttered to herself, rubbing her tired eyes. The Henderson project was due for review tomorrow, and she wanted everything to be perfect. This was her chance to prove herself based solely on her abilities, not her family name. Her phone buzzed with a message. Sophia expected it to be Aisha checking if she was still at work, but instead, her heart skipped a beat when she saw her father's name. "Arriving tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing you. Dinner at 8? Dad." Sophia stared at the message in disbelief. Her father was coming here. She hadn't told him where she was staying or working. But then again, Victor Chen had ways of finding out anything he wanted to know. She quickly typed back, "How did you know where I was?" "Never mind, stupid question. Yes to dinner, but I choose the place." His response came seconds later. "Deal. Send me the address. And Sophia, I'm proud of you." Those last 5 words made her smile. Despite their differences and her insistence on independence, her father had always supported her choices, even when he didn't understand them. Meanwhile, across town at the Wellington Hotel, chaos reigned. The entire staff was in a frenzy preparing for Victor Chen's arrival the next day. Polish every surface twice. Replace all the flowers in the lobby. Check every light bulb. Bradley Thompson barked orders as he paced the marble floor. His normally slicked back hair was slightly disheveled from running his hands through it anxiously. "Mr. Thompson," his assistant approached cautiously. "Mr. Chen's office just confirmed he'll be arriving tomorrow afternoon. They've booked the presidential suite for 3 nights. Bradley's face paled. "The presidential suite isn't ready. We were planning to renovate it next month." "I know, sir. I've already called in the maintenance team to work through the night. They'll refresh the paint, replace all the linens, and bring in fresh furniture." Good, Bradley nodded nervously. "This has to be perfect. Victor Chen is not just any guest. He owns nearly half the hotel group now. My career depends on making a good impression." As the staff scattered to carry out his orders, Bradley retreated to his office and poured himself a small glass of whiskey. He rarely drank during work hours, but today was an exception. The pressure was immense. 3 days, he whispered to himself. Just need to impress him for 3 days. Back at Meridian Technologies, Sophia finally finished her proposal and packed up her things. It was nearly 10 p.m., and her stomach growled with hunger. She hadn't eaten since lunch. As she walked through the empty office, her phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from David. "Just checking if you're still working. Don't stay too late. Big presentation tomorrow." Sophia smiled at his thoughtfulness. "Just leaving now. Everything's ready for tomorrow. See you in the morning," she typed back. On her walk home, she passed by the Wellington Hotel. The lights were still on, and she could see unusual activity through the glass doors. Staff members scurried back and forth across the lobby, carrying fresh flowers and pushing carts full of supplies. Sophia paused, watching the scene. A small part of her wanted to walk in just to see the look on Bradley Thompson's face when he recognized her, this time in her professional clothes, with her hair neatly styled. But she decided against it. There would be time for that later. What she didn't know was that her father had specifically requested the Wellington for his stay after noticing it was part of his hotel group and located in the same city as Sophia. It wasn't a coincidence. Victor Chen never did anything by coincidence. The next morning, Sophia awoke early, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Today, she would present her first major project at work, and tonight she would see her father for the first time in months. She chose her outfit carefully, a navy blue blazer over a simple white blouse, paired with black trousers, professional but not flashy. Her father had always taught her that true power didn't need to announce itself. As she applied a light touch of makeup, she wondered how to tell her colleagues about her dinner plans. She had been deliberately vague about her background, and suddenly mentioning a dinner with her billionaire father might raise questions she wasn't ready to answer. In the end, she decided on a half-truth. "I'm meeting my father for dinner tonight," she told Aisha when her friend asked about her plans for the evening. "He's in town on business." "That's nice," Aisha replied. Where are you taking him? A small Vietnamese place near my apartment, Sophia said. Nothing fancy, but the food is amazing. She didn't mention that she'd chosen the modest restaurant deliberately, knowing it would amuse her father, who was accustomed to dining in the world's finest establishments. Across town, Victor Chen's private jet touched down at the airport. As he descended the steps to the tarmac, a sleek black car waited to take him to the Wellington Hotel. We've arranged everything according to your usual preferences, Mr. Chen, his assistant informed him. The Wellington staff has been notified of your arrival. Victor nodded, his mind already turning to the evening ahead. And my dinner with Sophia? We've kept that off your official schedule, as requested. No one at the hotel knows about your personal connection to the city. Perfect, Victor said with a small smile. Let's see what kind of welcome the Wellington has prepared. The Wellington Hotel's grand entrance was lined with staff members standing at attention as the sleek black car pulled up to the curb. Bradley Thompson stood front and center, his face a mask of professional courtesy hiding the nervous twitch in his left eye. He had changed his tie 3 times that morning, finally settling on a deep blue silk that cost more than most of his staff earned in a day. Remember, he hissed at the line of employees behind him, Mr. Chen is not just a VIP, he's THEVIP. 40% of your paychecks come directly from his pocket. The car door opened and out stepped Victor Chen. At 62, he carried himself with the quiet confidence that comes from decades of success. He wore a simple but perfectly tailored charcoal suit with no flashy accessories except for a vintage watch, a reminder of his humble beginnings. Mr. Chen, welcome to the Wellington. Bradley rushed forward, hand extended. I'm Bradley Thompson, the general manager. It's an absolute honor to have you with us. Victor gave a polite nod and shook Bradley's hand firmly. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I'm looking forward to seeing what the Wellington has to offer. We've prepared everything according to your preferences, sir. The presidential suite has been completely refreshed for your stay. Allow me to give you a personal tour of the property. As they walked through the lobby, Bradley pointed out various features of the hotel with grand sweeping gestures. Our marble was imported from Italy. The chandeliers are handcrafted crystal from Vienna, and all our furniture is custom-made. Victor nodded politely, saying little. His eyes, however, missed nothing from the nervous glances of the staff to the slightly worn carpet near the elevators that had been hastily covered with a decorative plant. And how do you handle guests in difficult circumstances, Mr. Thompson? Victor asked suddenly as they entered the elevator. Bradley blinked in surprise. Difficult circumstances, sir? Yes. Say a guest arrives looking less than presentable. Perhaps their luggage was lost, or they were caught in bad weather. Victor's voice was casual, but his eyes were sharp and focused. Bradley straightened his tie. Well, sir, the Wellington has very strict standards. Our clientele expects a certain level of quality in their fellow guests. We do our best to maintain that atmosphere. I see, Victor said quietly. And how exactly do you maintain that atmosphere? We have protocols, sir. Guests who don't meet our appearance standards might be politely directed to other accommodations better suited to their situation. Bradley smiled, clearly proud of this policy. Victor wrote something in a small notebook he carried. Fascinating. Please continue the tour. For the next hour, Bradley showed Victor every corner of the hotel, from the rooftop pool to the wine cellar. Throughout the tour, Victor asked pointed questions about customer service, staff training, and guest satisfaction. Your customer satisfaction ratings have dropped slightly in the past quarter, Victor noted as they returned to the lobby. Any thoughts on why? Bradley's smile faltered. Just a minor fluctuation, sir. Nothing to be concerned about. We've already implemented new training programs to address it. I look forward to seeing the results, Victor replied, checking his watch. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some personal business to attend to this evening. Of course, sir. Would you like our concierge to make dinner reservations at our 5-star restaurant? Chef Pierre has prepared a special menu in your honor. Victor shook his head. Not tonight. I already have plans. As Victor headed to his suite, Bradley remained in the lobby, wiping sweat from his brow. I think that went well, he told his assistant. He seemed impressed. He didn't say much, the assistant replied uncertainly. Men like Victor Chen don't need to say much. Trust me, we've won him over. Across town, Sophia sat in her office, staring at the clock. Her presentation that morning had gone brilliantly. Mrs. Park had praised her work in front of the entire team, and even the company CEO had stopped by to congratulate her. Now, with just an hour left before she would see her father, the butterflies in her stomach were doing somersaults. She loved him dearly, but they were so different. He believed in using power and influence to get what you wanted, while she preferred to earn respect through hard work and merit. Heading out soon? Aisha asked, poking her head into Sophia's office. Yes, meeting my father, remember? Sophia replied, gathering her things. You seem nervous. Is everything okay? Sophia smiled. It's fine. My father and I, we just have different views on certain things. Like what? Like whether I should be working at a company I love or running a division of my firm. Sophia caught herself. I mean working for my family's business. Aisha nodded sympathetically. Parents always think they know what's best. My mom still thinks I should have become a doctor instead of a project manager. Exactly, Sophia said, relieved that Aisha hadn't caught her slip. At 7:30, Sophia arrived at the small Vietnamese restaurant she had chosen. It was a humble place with plastic chairs and paper placemats, but the food was authentic and delicious. She had purposely picked somewhere far from the upscale restaurants her father usually frequented. She spotted him immediately. Despite the casual setting, Victor Chen stood out like a diamond in a box of pebbles. He had at least made an effort to blend in, wearing a simple button-down shirt instead of his usual suit. Dad, she called, waving. His face lit up when he saw her. No matter their differences, the love between them was genuine and deep. He embraced her tightly. Look at you, he said, holding her at arm's length. 2 weeks at your new job and already you look like a seasoned professional. Sophia laughed. I'm still just a junior project manager, Dad. For now, he said with a knowing smile. I've heard you're already making waves. They sat down at a small table in the corner. Victor looked around with interest at the simple surroundings. I know it's not what you're used to, Sophia said apologetically. It's perfect, he replied. Your mother and I used to eat at places like this when we were first married. Before all the money, before the company took off. The mention of her mother, who had passed away 5 years ago, brought a momentary sadness to both their faces. So, Sophia said, changing the subject, how long are you in town? 3 days. I'm staying at the Wellington Hotel. Have you heard of it? Sophia nearly choked on her water. The Wellington? Dad, of all the hotels in the city, why that one? Victor raised an eyebrow. It's part of our hotel group now. I'm checking on my investment. Why? Is there something wrong with it? Sophia took a deep breath. She had planned to tell her father about the incident eventually, but not like this, not so soon. Dad, she said slowly, there's something I need to tell you about the Wellington Hotel. Something that happened the night I arrived in town. Victor Chen's face darkened as Sophia recounted her experience at the Wellington Hotel. With each detail, the dismissive looks, Bradley Thompson's condescending tone, the security guard hovering nearby, his expression grew stormier. By the time she finished describing how she'd been forced to find a cheap motel in the rain, his knuckles were white around his water glass. And you didn't tell me this when it happened because... His voice was quiet, but Sophia knew that tone well. It was the calm before the storm. Because I wanted to handle it myself, she replied. Dad, that's why I left Hong Kong in the first place, to prove I can solve my own problems without the Chen name opening doors. Victor took a deep breath, clearly trying to control his anger. Sophia, there's a difference between opening doors and being treated with basic human dignity. I know, but... No buts. What that hotel manager did was unacceptable. Not just to you as my daughter, but to any guest. He pulled out his phone. Sophia reached across the table and placed her hand on his. Dad, please don't make a scene. Not tonight. Victor looked at his daughter's face and slowly put his phone away. Fine, but this isn't over. They tried to enjoy the rest of their dinner, and despite the tension, the food was delicious. Sophia steered the conversation towards safer topics, her new job, her colleagues, the city. By dessert, Victor was smiling again as she told him about her successful presentation earlier that day. You always did have your mother's brilliant mind, he said proudly. As they walked out of the restaurant, Victor checked his watch. It's still early. How about showing me your new workplace? I'd love to see where my daughter is making such a good impression. Sofia hesitated. The building will be locked by now, but we could walk by and I'll show you from outside. Perfect. They strolled through the downtown streets, Sofia pointing out local landmarks along the way. The night was clear and warm, with a gentle breeze that carried the scent of nearby flowering trees. So tomorrow you'll be back to inspecting the Wellington? Sofia asked cautiously. Victor nodded. I'll be meeting with the management team in the morning. Bradley Thompson has no idea what's coming. Dad, don't worry, I won't embarrass you. But that hotel needs serious changes, and not just because of how they treated you. They reached the Meridian Technologies building, its glass facade reflecting the city lights. Sofia pointed out her office window on the 15th floor. It's not the penthouse of Chen Tower, she said with a small smile, but I love it. Victor put his arm around her shoulders. It's not about where you work, Sofia. It's about doing what fulfills you. Their walk back towards Sofia's apartment took them past the Wellington Hotel. The grand entrance was lit up, doormen in crisp uniforms greeting well-dressed guests arriving for late dinners or events. Let's go in, Victor said suddenly. Sofia stopped in her tracks. What? No, Dad, that's not a good idea. I'm staying there, remember? And I'd like my daughter to join me for a drink in the lounge. Unless you're afraid. That was a challenge, and they both knew it. Sofia squared her shoulders. Fine, one drink. As they approached the entrance, the doorman immediately recognized Victor and jumped to attention. Good evening, Mr. Chen. Welcome back, sir. Thank you, Thomas. This is my daughter who will be joining me for a drink. The doorman bowed slightly to Sofia, not recognizing her from their previous encounter when he had escorted her out. The Wellington's lobby lounge was elegant, with soft lighting and comfortable seating. A pianist played quietly in the corner. As they entered, Sofia saw Bradley Thompson speaking with some guests near the bar. Her stomach tightened. Let's sit over there, Victor said, nodding toward a table that would be clearly visible to anyone in the lounge. A waiter immediately approached, and Victor ordered a scotch for himself and a sparkling water for Sofia. As they waited for their drinks, Bradley finally noticed Victor and hurried over, his face plastered with a professional smile. Mr. Chen, what a pleasant surprise. I hope you're enjoying your stay with us. So far it's been enlightening, Victor replied coolly. Bradley, I'd like you to meet my daughter Sofia. Bradley turned to Sofia, the smile frozen on his face as recognition slowly dawned in his eyes. The color drained from his cheeks. You're, he stammered. Yes, Ms. Chen arrived in town about 2 weeks ago, Victor continued, his voice deceptively casual. She had a reservation at this hotel. A confirmed, paid reservation. Unfortunately, there was some confusion. Bradley's eyes darted between father and daughter, his mind clearly racing to understand the implications. Mr. Chen, there must be some mistake. I don't recall. Don't you? Sofia asked quietly. You told me there was no record of my reservation. You suggested I try a more suitable motel. You called security to escort me out. Does any of that sound familiar, Mr. Thompson? By now, several staff members had noticed the tense conversation. The assistant manager approached cautiously. Is everything all right, Mr. Thompson? Bradley's face had gone from white to a sickly gray. Yes, everything's fine. Just catching up with Mr. Chen and his daughter. Victor took a sip of his scotch, his eyes never leaving Bradley's face. Mr. Thompson was just about to explain the Wellington's policy on guests whose appearance doesn't meet their standards, even when those guests have confirmed reservations. A look of pure panic crossed Bradley's face as he realized that the daughter of the hotel's biggest investor, the man who essentially signed his paychecks, was the same disheveled young woman he had so callously thrown out just 2 weeks ago. Mr. Chen, Ms. Chen, please, I had no idea, if I had known. If you had known she was my daughter, you would have treated her differently. Victor's voice was deadly quiet now. That's exactly the problem, isn't it? 1 month later, the Wellington Hotel looked the same from the outside, grand, elegant, imposing. But inside, everything had changed. A new sign hung in the lobby, the Sofia Chen Travelers Aid Initiative. Beneath it stood a help desk staffed by friendly employees ready to assist guests in need, those with lost luggage, travel emergencies, or any other difficulties. Bradley Thompson was gone. The day after his confrontation with Victor and Sophia Chen, he had been called to a meeting with the hotel group's board of directors. No one knew exactly what was said, but he had emerged pale-faced and cleaned out his office that same afternoon. In his place stood Gabriela Vega, the hotel's new general manager. A 30-year veteran of the hospitality industry, she had built her reputation on exceptional customer service and compassionate leadership. Remember, she told the staff during their morning meeting, "We judge our success not by how we treat our wealthiest guests, but by how we treat those in need of our help and understanding." The staff nodded. They had all heard the story of how the previous manager had thrown out the daughter of their biggest investor. It had become a cautionary tale throughout the entire hotel group, and indeed, throughout the hospitality industry. Across town, Sophia sat in her new office at Meridian Technologies. Her promotion to senior project manager had come through after her innovative approach to the Henderson project had saved the company millions. Her team had just finished a successful presentation to the board of directors, and everyone was in high spirits. "Great job today," said David, poking his head into her office. "The board loved your sustainability proposals." "Thanks," Sophia smiled. It was a team effort. After he left, Sophia turned to look out her window at the city skyline. So much had changed in just a few weeks. Her colleagues still didn't know about her family background, and she preferred to keep it that way. Mrs. Park had pulled her aside once to mention that she had seen Sophia's picture in the business section of the newspaper, standing next to Victor Chen at the announcement of the new hotel initiative, but had promised to keep it quiet. "Your work speaks for itself," Mrs. Park had told her. "That's all that matters here." Sophia's phone buzzed with a message from her father, checking in. "Dinner tonight? Your choice of restaurant again." She smiled and typed back, "Yes, 7 p.m. I'll send you the address." Since that night at the Wellington, her relationship with her father had shifted. He had finally understood her need for independence, and she had realized that sometimes using your influence for positive change wasn't such a bad thing. Victor had turned the Wellington incident into an opportunity to transform not just that hotel, but the entire hotel group's approach to customer service. The Sophia Chen Travelers Aid Initiative had been implemented in every property, with special training for staff on treating all guests with dignity regardless of appearance or circumstances. As Sophia packed up her things for the day, her phone rang. It was Aisha. "Hey, a bunch of us are going for dinner at that new Thai place. Want to join?" "Sorry, I can't tonight. Having dinner with my dad." "The mysterious international businessman. You never talk about him. What does he do exactly?" Sophia hesitated. Maybe it was time to be a little more open. "He's in hospitality, actually. Hotels. Like he manages one." "Something like that," Sophia said with a small smile. "Maybe you can meet him sometime." After hanging up, Sophia walked home to change for dinner. The restaurant she had chosen tonight was neither a hole in the wall like their first dinner, nor an upscale establishment like her father might have preferred. It was somewhere in the middle, a cozy Italian place with good food and a warm atmosphere. When she arrived, Victor was already there, looking more relaxed than she had seen him in years. Gone was the formal businessman in a perfect suit. Instead, he wore a casual button-down shirt and jeans. "What happened to you?" she teased as she sat down. Victor laughed. "I'm taking some time off, delegating more. Lai Wei says thank you, by the way. She's been telling me to do this for years." "So what will you do with all this free time?" "I thought I might stick around here a bit longer," he said. "Get to know the city my daughter loves so much. If that's okay with you." Sophia reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "I'd like that." As they enjoyed their meal, a couple entered the restaurant, looking disheveled and tired. The woman was explaining to the host that their flight had been delayed, they had lost their luggage, and they had just arrived after traveling for 20 hours. Victor and Sophia exchanged glances as they overheard the conversation. The restaurant host was handling it beautifully, seating the couple at a nice table despite their appearance, and offering them complimentary bread and wine while they looked at the menu. "See?" Sophia said softly. "Some people understand how to treat others with dignity, no matter what they look like." Victor nodded. Speaking of which, I heard Gabriella is doing an excellent job at the Wellington. Customer satisfaction ratings are up 30% already. And Bradley Thompson. Last I heard, he's working at a budget motel outside the city. I hear they have very scratchy sheets and paper-thin walls. They both laughed, and Sophia raised her glass. To treating everyone with kindness and respect. And to my brilliant daughter, Victor added, who taught her old-fashioned father a valuable lesson. As they clinked glasses, Sophia thought about how one difficult night had led to so much positive change, not just for the hotel, but for her relationship with her father, and for all the future travelers who would be treated with dignity regardless of their appearance or circumstances. Sometimes the most powerful lessons came from the most unexpected situations, and sometimes being thrown out in the rain could lead to the brightest sunshine.